and welcome to Journey to Justice. I'm Eiko Kosasa, your host. This is the second of a two-part interview with Warden Mark Kawika Patterson of the Women's Community Correctional Center. Let's listen in.
When I was training with a lot of the wardens from the other facilities, I met a warden that told me, he asked me, do you have a predominantly female workforce? And I said, yes, I do. He said, understand everything that you're learning now for the women offenders, you can apply to your staff. You know, and I was like, what? He said, yeah, this is not just for one group, it's for all women.
Yeah, it's societal
Yeah,
problems.
it's a societal problem. It's just that
Yeah.
your women have developed means to deal with it so they can function
Yeah.
in society. Women in the criminal justice system have not developed those skills. So you have to teach it to them.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's the whole mode that we went to at this facility in terms of trauma-informed care.
Right. But then, at the same time,
yeah.
pu'ohonua.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I'm learning all of this, I said, oh my God, it sounds like a sanctuary. You know,
Yeah.
this sounds like a sanctuary. So I went to one of my spiritual advisors, I call him that from school, Kahu Kaupu. David Kaupu used to be the minister at Kamehameha.
Oh, okay.
And I sat down with him and I started talking to him about pu'uhonua, about how individuals in ancient times that had broken, cardinal rules that might cause them to be killed would run to the sanctuary, pu'uhonua, and then once they get inside the walls, no one can touch them. Yeah, and then eventually they was released, and when they're released, nobody can touch them because something happens in there. I didn't know about that much knowledge.
Yeah.
So I asked him to bring that up to today in modern context and tell me, how do you interpret that? So he said, as the women come to you, into your walls, they are forgiven for their sins. Yeah. And then your job is how do you teach them to live a forgiven life? And so that has been the underlying goal for me.
Yeah.
Is to tell them it's okay, you're here because of your crime. Now I'm going to teach you how to live with your crime. Yeah. How to live a forgiven life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And be productive again.
Yeah. So you have, I know, different programs like Tony Sent. She comes in, right?
Right.
And they do like lectures and I don't know exactly what.
There is no one program that's going to solve everything I just
Right.
told you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you bring in different.
So every woman here goes through a different path to her own transformation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, for the most part, most women will refuse treatment
Oh.
for
Okay.
the sole purpose of not having to deal with the issue. So
Yeah.
they built their walls up, and they ain't gonna destroy them.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of our activities here designed to break the walls down.
Oh.
And every staff, from my case management to security, the cooks, the janitors, they all have a goal of trying to break those walls down so the woman accepts treatment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the basis of once they get into treatment, they finish. Normally, like Hinomalco is like 12 to 18 months, 24/7. They graduate or they finish it, then they move on.
Yeah.
They go into our work furlough programs and eventually parole.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the concept of our pu'uhonua.
Yeah.
Is in making them face their trauma issues. And then the second one, which is almost as important as the first one, is helping them to rebuild the bridges that they burnt with their families and trying to reunite them with their children.
Wow. Wow. That one is important because when they're released to go back into society.
Children is the means to their success, unless they totally lost them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, the women don't lose children because they come to prison. They lose the children during their addiction. That is normally before the criminal justice system.
Yeah. In the prison monologues, one of the women talked about that, about with their child. Yeah, there's some kind of relationship like that. Oh.
I think one of the women she hasn't seen her children like in 13 years.
Yeah.
I try not to think about it because there's a lot of them like that here.
Yeah.
And a lot of them will tell you, it's not one or two. It's like 5 or 6 or 7, you know. When they tell you numbers like that, you're just totally amazed.
Yeah.
And why is that? And the reason why that's key, and this is the political awareness part.
Okay.
And where I've becoming an advocate with the prison monologue is that 65% of these children will go to jail. That's a national statistic.
Yeah.
And so if we cannot look at those societal issues a little bit more closer, these children will keep our criminal justice system working.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because they're coming. We're just
Right.
it's intergenerational.
Right.
It just keeps
Right.
on going because we're not trying to stop it.
Right.
You know.
And so with that, I know you work with different community groups because you're trying to address so that the cycle doesn't continue.
All different types of aspect that that surrounds the trauma.
Yeah.
So, for example, we have a program called Hui Kahi. Hui Kahi is making the group one. So we'll have a woman come in. It's originally designed for her to come in and have her crime partners or her victims come in to have some kind of understanding. We don't like to say apology or forgiveness or anything like that, but just to put them both together so whatever the issue was between them can let go. Hawaiians say na ho'oponopono. We call it a restorative justice circle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's also designed to bring family in because she burnt a lot of bridges with her family.
Yeah.
And so they talk about, you know, what I did, what you did, how can we together make it better for when I get out.
Yeah.
You know, that's the forgiveness part, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's an example of one of the small activities that we do.
Yeah. And you meant, you know, we brought up the thing about the prison monologues, but you were saying why you're an advocate for it? I didn't.
It's an advocate for making awareness for the issues that the women bring up in their monologue.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some of the stuff is, you know, when you hear a woman's on stage talking about when she was a young girl being molested, you know, you'd be surprised at what happens when we go to high schools and girls come up and talk to her.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and then we're like, you know, we're trying to wave down counselors and stuff, saying, you know, you might want to keep in touch with this girl.
Yeah.
Wherever we go, we always make sure counselors are available because there are going to be kids that can relate to the stories of the women.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the sad part. But that's what the women, of the prison monologue, that's what's fulfilling for the women who participate. The ability to touch a girl.
Yeah.
And say, it's okay, we understand, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Because what happened is they shared that they kept it in. And that by keeping it in, it came out in terms of alcohol, drugs, and it's anger.
And it's like in a way, like a community service in going out there and talking.
If you listen to her, Lily, when she talks, she says, we were the problem. We want to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
You know? And
because it's powerful.
And they take accountability for what they did.
They make that
you will
clear.
hear that.
Yeah.
We are here because we did something wrong. You know.
Yeah.
We're not giving you a sad story. You know, do we deserve this?
Yeah.
But that's the part where they forgive themselves. They're able to come up there and say that. Yeah, that's each of those women is a long process. I think if I was to just go, there's 4 of them, so it's like 6, 8, 10, and 12 years that they've done straight, each of those girls, you know.
Yeah.
So this is their journey that they've had while they were in prison to get them to the point that they're at now.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't think that, let me give you another statistic, and because the prison monologue now is going to the neighbor islands. Yeah. So 300 women here. 1/3 are from the neighbor island. Okay.
Wow.
So I have 100 women from the neighbor island. So that means 200 women come from a population of 1 million. Right? And
Yeah.
100 women come from a population of about 200,000 to
Yeah.
300,000.
Right, right.
So you kind of scratch your head and go, how come so many neighbor island women are coming to prison?
Yeah.
And only 200 out of a million population on Oahu. 65% of the children across the street at the youth facility
Yeah.
are from the neighbor islands.
Wow.
More that blows you away, because how can that small population have 65% of our juveniles that are incarcerated?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that
It's
those are all
economics,
rural
yeah.
rural areas. You know, they don't have the services that we have here. All those issues.
Oh, yeah.
So I advocate for that knowledge. So, because if you want to start to reduce our beds or reduce our prisons, solve the neighbor island issues. Yeah. If we lived in Hawaii for so long, we know every island is different.
Yeah.
I'm a proponent, and I've been saying it only recently, that let the islands take care of their own people.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when it's the outer islands that are really calling for changes in the criminal justice system.
Oh, yeah.
Let them, let the counties take care of their own people, because
Yeah.
they're going to do something totally different than Oahu.
Yeah. They know the issues
Yeah.
over there.
Good
Yeah.
example, if you go to Kauai, you ever meet the warden on Kauai? I love him, my mentor. Been there over 20-something years as the warden. Neo Wakamatsu. Kauai people are so different. So they can do things that we would never dream about doing here,
Yeah.
only because of their uniqueness. And that's historically been true about the island of Kauai.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why you allow them to use their island uniqueness to resolve their own issues instead of just sending them to Oahu. Because what they get back is a new and improved criminal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so more that messes up the island,
Yeah.
or however you want to say it. I don't know if that's making sense to you.
No, it does make sense. So
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, so within the public safety, then you got to bring these ideas to the
Yes.
to the state level, so they maybe it can
I
happen.
think they're still trying to figure out who I am, right?
But they must recognize the success.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Because maybe I'm unorthodox or whatnot.
Yeah.
I always share that the population is reduced, is being reduced, even as we speak.
Yeah.
And I can't put a finger on why. All I say that everything that I talked about is that my staff is doing what I'm asking them to do. They're working together to assure that, like the DOE, that no woman gets left behind type of idea, yeah? And even they don't know. I just told them in a letter I wrote to all of them when we got the proclamation for Prison Monologues.
yeah.
that because of what you do, this is easily attainable. But this was attainable.
Yeah.
The other thing I commended them for was there are no women on the mainland. Yeah, we brought them all home 3 years ago.
Wow.
So there's 175 in Kentucky. We brought 75 here that brought me to 300. And 100 went to the Federal Detention Center. I have 13 left. So my big goal right now is to get that 13 over here so I can say that the mainland population has been reduced.
Wow.
I don't know where those 90 or 85 women went.
Yeah.
They went through here though to go back out.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I'd like to say that things are working here. Population is dropping. Women are not coming back.
Yeah.
You know.
And I was just thinking, when you're working with different community organizations here, when they get released, they know those organizations that they can help them too if they need help, or just to connect to other people.
I always say that government in and by itself cannot resolve the offender problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because community cannot wait till that person is in transition.
Yeah.
It begins as soon as the person gets here. So I
Yeah.
actually bring community all the way into the prison.
This week in the
Yeah.
paper,
Yeah,
had
like
the women
that's
doing
the
the
best
gardening.
example.
Yeah.
So by the time the women gets out, some of the women that were part of those programs, they're still hooked up with those organizations.
Yeah.
Because that's their support group.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you wanna show the women that there are actually people in the community that do care about you. A lot of the women will go and be members of the churches that they met in here.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
go to the organizations that help them and volunteer for the organizations that help bring their children and them together.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
We interviewed Meliana Meyer and we at Koinui Marsh, and she was saying how the women came and they helped clear over there too. And I went, wow, all right.
The Ulupoheao
Yeah.
is on the marsh.
Yeah.
There's like 3 or 4 places that touch the marsh that the women clean. That marsh is the healing marsh, I call it, because a lot of women that go there and clean and maintain.
Yeah.
I think on average, maybe 6 months to 8 months, they ask to go to treatment.
Oh.
Just the fact of touching the land in those areas, something overwhelms them. You know?
Wow.
And of course, I always have my officers working on them.
Yeah.
To get them to train. Because when they're off on their own, they got their weed whackers and they go in and they're pulling weeds and things like that. That's their period of contemplation.
Yeah.
We have lo'is over here in our property too. Same principle. You get them there to by themselves. They start thinking on their own. They feel the nature. They feel the birds, the wind, the sun on their face. And you know, it's an aha moment for them when they say, you know, okay, I'm going to go to treatment.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's a big decision.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's like all the years of being a certain way to, like you said, to break it down to change. Okay, I'm going to try.
Yeah. And most of the women that have gone through Hinamok will tell you it was the hardest thing they ever did.
To make that decision?
Well, and to go through the program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it's very challenging.
Yeah. So this is, you're doing great here.
It's a team effort.
And what do you see in the future? Like just getting more and more partners, or what is your vision?
The big vision we have right now is how do we bring an environment like Ulupo, and some of the areas on the marsh here, so that the women who cannot leave can have that same experience. How do we use the land to help change behavior, to help influence a woman's journey with herself? So we have the lo'is that are studying. We actually have a stream that goes through here. And we're trying to get community partners to work with us and helping develop what we're calling like a botanical arbor type of area where the women will care for that can't leave, So we can have what I call the true sanctuary, true pool. Wow. We can grow from the land and share. I want to share a story with our guest here to the islands from Turtle Island. Well, 25 years ago, I was a correctional officer on my first day in what is then called the Southern Nevada Correctional Center, the Southern Division of the Department of Prisons in Nevada. And I was in my, we wore green and khaki uniform, and they were showing me around the prison the first day, and they took me to a place that was kind of strange. Now, for those of us that grew in the island, sometimes when you play in the mountains or certain areas and you come upon rock piles and things like that, our kapunas always tell you, if you get funny feeling, back off, take a good look at the rocks, say you sorry, and tell Keokua, malama pono, take care, leave an offering and go. Because we don't know if that was Heao or a sacred place at one point in time. Okay. Ahui ho, malama pono. Southern Nevada Correctional Center was in the middle of a desert. And so he went to this place, had a gate. And then when I looked past the gate, there were some individuals in the gate. And there was like a little, what looked like I don't know what to call it, but it was made out of sheets. And some structures, some small structures. And everything was laid out with the desert rocks. And so it looked like a path, and it looked like something important. And I got that funny feeling you get when you're a little kid and you're hiking in the mountains and whatnot. And I asked him, what is this? And his words are simply, oh, this is where the Indians go swimming. I go, what? This is where the Indians go swimming. I didn't know what that meant. But I stopped because he kept on walking and he was kicking the rocks, and I was looking at that, looking at the man, looking at him. And I just had that feeling that I wanted to pray. Yeah. So I did something that really made my reputation at the prison. I took off my shoes, and I took off my socks, and then I walked on that land that they had, okay? And then I just passed the guy, because I went to the guys that were staring at me, which were the inmates. And I asked, the first one I came to, what is this? And I think they were out there taken aback too, because, they didn't know what I was doing. And they told me, this is our sweat lodge. Yeah. And I said, well, I've never heard of that. Can you teach me? And so he started explaining about what, this is the fire pit. This is where the rocks that we put into the water, that's when we were in there and we stripped down and we meditate. And, I'm getting old, so I don't remember everything they told me. But there was a small little pool that they fill with water that when they come out, they jump into. Yeah. And then there was places for them to cook when they did their ceremonies and all of that. Yeah. And I was pretty overwhelmed with all that information because I had worked in Hawaii system before going to Nevada. So this is the first time I seen something like this, never heard of it. And saw the feather, the sage. You go into the cell and you see the huge headdresses and the pipes, and very impressed. Learned a lot in that time, but I guess the simple, the word goes around among the correctional staff. The guy took his shoes off. Nobody knows why. What an idiot. Lucky for me, my boss was a 6'4" Hawaiian, and he told me, "You're not in Hawaii anymore, boo." And I told him, "Bruh, I don't like walking there with my boots and stuff. And next thing I know, I go home, I go sleep, and go get an Indian in my room." Okay, so I just did what I felt was porno, because I don't need any more reasons to drink. Yeah. So just wanted to share you that, and from that simple act, I actually became, it was a whole different culture for me, yeah, because it was the population specifically divided into whites, blacks, Hispanic. We had Cubans, Native American. So because they knew I was not from there, it's interesting how you can be Hawaiian and you're neutral. And you become the peacemaker between everything, even between the officers, because they follow the same racial lines. So that's me 25 years ago. Been in the corrections for almost 28 years. The last 6 have been with women. And I'm going to my first year at the Women's Community Correctional Center, an officer asked me to go to Ulupo, where the women clean. And the officer told me, "I need you to see something. I want to talk to you about what I witnessed here." And she began to talk to me about how the land changes the women. She began to talk to me about sometimes she loses women and then she'll see them on the side under a ulu tree or something, just bawling their eyes out, crying. She says, in her words, she says, the land touches them. Don't ask me why. I failed Hawaiian history in high school. I don't know, but I'm just saying here that something is happening in here, and my reason why I'm bringing you here is how can we bring this environment into the prison for the women who cannot come out? Yeah. So that is the foundation of where we started from that simple request. And it has always been, how do we bring Ulupo into the Women's Community Correctional Center? Yeah, symbolically, yeah. There are some things that we want to do, but we're looking at a total change in what we do in terms of corrections, yeah. I've never used rehabilitation. I've always used the word healing, yeah. So one of our mission is to heal women, but also to help them to discover what their gift is. So all the programs are surrounded around doing just that. Are we perfect right now? I want to tell you no. Yeah, because you talk about, the way they're treated, the way the punitive things that happen in a prison system. You can talk all about those things, but prison comes from several hundred years of tradition. Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight, but it's just going to be, like how we solve the trauma issues with the women who have built walls up that don't want to deal with the issues that cause their substance abuse. We just have to chip away, chip away, chip away, chip away, and that's how we make it. part of what I want to say, trying to keep this short, is, I wake up in the morning sometimes and you want to grab a bat and just take a swing at the criminal justice system because you piss off, right? And that's an acronym that I use when I go around to describe how we should begin chipping at the walls. Yeah. For me to be successful as a warden at the Women's Community Correctional Center, I have to be part of everything that happens before. Yeah, that's the B. Yeah, I have to go out and advocate for government agencies, public organizations, community organizations that will help me to stop girls from coming to prison. Yeah? And so that is an important part of not just what I do, but what I use the women to go out and advocate for as well. Yeah. A is just me, where I'm at right now. T is everything after prison to stop them from coming back to prison. So how do I go out there and advocate in the community for those organizations and agencies that help with transition and reentry? How do I find housing? How do I find other things, medical, especially for women? How do we do things? How do we partner? How do we bring community involvement? The state has tried for we've only been a state for 60, 70 years. They cannot do everything by themselves. Community has to get involved. Yeah, community has to get involved, not at the point of departure, but at the point of while they're still inside. Yeah. So the WCCC has a whole bunch of community coming in doing programming with the women, so the women know that there's people on the outside that care about who they are on the inside. And that's what I call the BAT. Yeah. I'm very proud of my staff. They put up a lot with me. I think the fact that I'm a correctional officer, it helps a lot. Since I've been a correctional officer for at least 20-something years before I became a warden. But everybody talks about statistics. Yeah. So one of the statistics I share is 1/3 of the 300 women with me right now are from the neighbor islands. And if any of you really can fathom that, is that if you listen to 1.3 million people in the state of Hawaii, 1 million on this island. So 1/3 of the women in the prison systems are coming from the neighbor islands. Yeah, that's a disproportionate to the population. 65% of the kids across the street at the Hawaii Youth Correctional Facility are from the neighbor islands. Yeah. So lately I've been going around with a bunch of women, what we call the Prison Monologue, to the neighbor islands, bringing awareness to that and asking them the question that, people say, why are we sending people to Arizona? I ask the neighbor islands, why are you sending your women and children to Oahu? Yeah, that needs to stop. Yeah, how do we create community and government working together to have services on the neighbor islands to stop that? That's just one way to decrease the population. To have the neighbor islands. I hope to see one day that the neighbor islands can take care from beginning to end on their own islands. Because those of us who are here know that every island is different. Every island is different. I always share about my counterpart, Neil Wagamatsu, on Kauai when he had the hurricane. He just told the inmates, the hurricane coming, you guys go home, come back next week. Next week later, they all came back. Neighbor islands can do things like that. That's just as funny as Molokai saying, hey, you arrested, go home, I'll see you in the morning. Some neighbor islands can do that. Yeah. So we need to have, every island, every section take care of their own in their own ways. So there's a lot of things where my mind is right now. That's important. Why? Because only with community and agencies and government agencies working together can we kind of put together some kind of collective impact on the entire system for systemic change. It's so important right now in our work and the partners that we have in the community. Some of them are here, and I hope that some of you can come and be part of that as well. Thank you very much.